Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is your host, Tom Pysz. We're celebrating our 19th year here on the air at WQLN FM 91.3, WQLN NPR. We're going to go back to our roots, and I'm going to do it in an interesting way. With me on the line today is Robert Chatfield, who serves as the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Free to Choose Network. And that's a global media organization. Now, Robert, you replaced Bob Chittister, and Bob is the founder and chair of the board of your organization, but he is also one of the founding fathers of WQLN Public Media. So it's an honor and a privilege to have you here today. Unfortunately, Bob Chittister passed away, and we were very sad over that, as he was an incredible individual, and certainly WQLN would not be here without him. Well, welcome to the program, and maybe you can let us know what your duties as assigned are right now, if you could.
Tom, thanks so much for having me. And as you well know, we're a nonprofit, so my duties include rattling my tin cup to go out and raise money for projects, which you know that line of work all too well, unfortunately. But Free to Choose Network still going strong. We're the film studio that brought the world Milton Friedman's Free to Choose. That's how we got our name. Mm-hmm. We still make documentary films for public television. But one of the neat things we do is oftentimes we take content from those public television shows and we turn them into 12 to 15 minute videos for the classroom. And we distribute those through an organization called IZZIT.org. That's IZZIT.org. Mm-hmm. And we are doing all sorts of exciting stuff with IZZIT this fall.
That's fabulous. Could you go back for a couple of minutes and give us an overview of the Free to Choose Network? You mentioned programs. I've watched many, if not all of them, online. They're very well done. Mm-hmm. I see a great deal of time and money investment. How did your organization come to be, and how did all these things get produced?
Well, the organization exists honestly because of Bob Chittister. Mm-hmm. As I said, you know, the man who founded WQLN. Mm-hmm. As part of running QLN, he actually was approached in terms of doing the series with Milton Friedman called Free to Choose, which was a 10-hour series on PBS. It was released in 1980, mm-hmm. And ever since then, Bob essentially, you know, Bob's background was entertainment and television, so that's how we got into the business of producing documentaries for public television. But we've been doing this. We must have over 20 programs. Everything's available on freetocoosenetwork.org. Anybody can watch the broadcast programs at no cost. They can download, or they can stream. Sorry, they can't download, but they can stream online. And for the most part, as I said, the organization's a nonprofit. We do not accept and we don't solicit government funding. It's me going around the nation, and a lot of times people who were interested in Milton Friedman. Entrepreneurs, business people who thought that Milton Friedman changed the world are the basis of our support.
And if we could help people understand the scope of your organization, you already mm-hmm. mentioned you travel around the world, mm-hmm. so there's no limit to your territory. And there's a reason for that, I believe. It's because of the productions and the outreach you do. Am I right?
Yeah, and as I said, the other thing we try to do is some people think that, you know, we're political, and we're not political at all. And one of the reasons we'll use a lot of international stories, Tom, is mm-hmm. because somebody can't say, well, that's a Republican or a Democrat issue, or if we're filming something in the Czech Republic, mm-hmm. or if we're filming something in Peru. You know, these things can't be Democrat or Republican, but they are topics, as I said, that are timeless. And what we're always looking for is you know, our mantra is personal, political, and economic freedom. Those people who are free to choose and make their own path are going to be happier, healthier, and wealthier than those who can't.
Robert Chatfield, how did you come to be involved with Free to Choose, the Free to Choose Network?
Random dumb luck, Tom. Thanks for asking.
Okay, I was looking for a little more fluff to that story, but
literally, I got something in my LinkedIn email box, and it said, here's a group you might want to consider joining. Here's some people you might want to link in with. Here's a job you might want to consider. And it was the Free to Choose Network. And I sent Bob Chittister a note, and I just said, hey, I'd never heard of you guys before, but this looks like a neat organization. And he said, send me your resume now.
Well, his most recent, yeah, that's a great story. The last office I'm familiar with, I could walk to it from my home right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you're residing in a different part of the world. Can you tell us about your offices, or should I say, is your organization all mobile? Is it all dispersed?
So we still are headquartered out of Erie, Pennsylvania, in beautiful Fillmore. I was going to say I call it the Fillmore East, but I think it's in terms of where the company's located. We're still in Erie, Pennsylvania, but I do have remote offices, if you will, people that work from a home office, and that's just because I'm on a plane usually once a week, if not once every other week, and too bad that the Erie Airport does not have a lot of good flights anymore.
No, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
So I live just outside of Portland, Maine, and I'm able to, as I said, access the planes pretty quickly from here. And I have a great staff in Erie. And I wouldn't be able to do this if I had to sit and essentially manage over the place. The people are great at doing their jobs. They know what they have to do to get stuff done, and couldn't do it without the folks in Erie. That's for sure.
Now you have some executive producer experience as well. A more or less perfect union is one program, and the other. This is interesting to me. Sweden, Lessons for America. Could you talk about those two series, please?
I'll start with a more or less perfect union, and that is a 3-hour program on the U.S. Constitution. And the host for that program is Judge Douglas Ginsburg, a wonderful man who donates all of his time and talent to our projects. As a sitting federal judge, he cannot be paid for anything. And so, as I said, this is something that he absolutely is doing as a labor of love. And I think he started that project with us because he thought people were falling out of love with the Constitution. And most people just didn't know what was in the Constitution and how our system of government was set up and why it was set up that way.
That's fabulous.
We then took footage from that. During the pandemic, it was obviously difficult to film places, but Judge allowed us to come to his chambers and film. And so we took footage from that 3-hour series, and the judge sat, and I can't give this guy enough credit for this. He sat and he answered all 100 questions for the U.S. citizenship test. And we have 2-minute videos on it's a website called civicsfundamentals.org. And anybody can register, go online, and essentially watch the 100 videos that explain the importance of each question. Most of the time, study guides for the citizenship test literally are, here's the question, here's the answer. And it's a PowerPoint slide or it's a flashcard. The judge sits and he, as I said, explains why each question's important, why you should know each question. And of course, we bring in all those nice production values as if it was a public television show. So that's, as I said, kudos to Judge Ginsburg. The man is just an amazing, amazing resource for anybody looking to study for the citizenship test, but also civics education. As I said, the man has he bemoans the state of civics education in the United States right now when people don't know what's in the Bill of Rights, what the Bill of Rights is, what's in the First Amendment. People don't read this stuff, and it's amazing that this isn't being taught in school, or if it's being taught, the students aren't learning it.
Sounds like this should be included in any scholastic curriculum, regardless of age, I would suggest as well.
Oh, by far, as I said, it's the videos are entertaining. As I said, it's available for anybody to watch if they just want to brush up on civics, and it's it's a nice little daily reminder. You could use it as a daily affirmation, if you will, of great civics.
A little bit at a time, and it'd be of great value at this particular time in our history, even more so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then the Sweden film, which you referenced, Sweden Lessons for America, we loved this project because this was when many people are like, oh, the United States should be more like Sweden or the Nordic countries. And it's the people who think that there's democratic socialism and that democratic socialism is a fantastic idea. And our host, Johan Norberg, who is a Swede, for this program, debunks those myths. Essentially, Sweden is not a socialist paradise. It's not a democratic socialist organization. In fact, when they tried to turn into a socialist experiment, the country damn well went bankrupt.
Oh.
And so inflation skyrocketed. Things were terrible. And so this was back in the 1970s. But here we are 50 years later, and people think it's still a socialist paradise, when in fact, the only reason they got out of that was by turning right back to the engine that brought them to where they were, which was capitalism and free trade. Right now, they're a more open free trade society than the United States.
That's a fascinating story. And of course, that program would include all this information and, of course, appropriately titled Lessons for America. That's great. Robert Chatfield, we're speaking with him. He is the president and chief executive officer of Free to Choose. And one of the reasons I wanted to catch up with you again, thank you for being on the program prior, but you have a brand new project. This is a big deal. And I'm going to let you introduce it because I've got the bullet points here. And if I say, is it, people are going to think I'm saying something else. But that's spelled I-Z-Z-I-T, capital H-E-R-E, exclamation point. And this is very interesting. Can you explain the project and how it works?
You're right. It is a big project, literally. So as I mentioned, ISIT.org is the education distribution arm. And we are introducing a brand new, I was going to say, it's actually a refurbished. It's a Class A motorhome turned into a mobile classroom. And we're going to take this motorhome turned into a mobile classroom from school to school around Western Pennsylvania to introduce career tech education opportunities to students. We want to give them a hands-on opportunity to learn about career tech education. For the older folks in the audience, we might have referred to this as vocational education back in the day. And it's well beyond, as I said, people think in terms of, the auto mechanics and the cosmetologist. Career tech education has expanded well beyond that. And most of what career tech education is geared toward is obviously the trades. And in this environment where there's a worker shortage by far of people who can perform in the trades, this is a viable alternative for students who might not want to go to college or might not want to take that 4-year college track right out of high school.
And that's a big discussion in this community. Have you talked with other folks here about it? Or wait, you're just breaking it out. How can you do that? Yes, it's brand new. Yeah.
As I said, this is something that we certainly hope is going to start driving the discussion. And I'm going to use all sorts of driving metaphors while I'm doing this, of course.
Excellent.
No, as I said, we one of the things we're trying to do with this is really involve the community. And so, we hope the Manufacturers Business Alliance, we hope a restaurant trade association, we hope all of these organizations will want to go ahead and work with us. In fact, we are looking for community sponsors for the RV because obviously it's going to cost some money to put gas in this thing and take it around the state. But, we will put logos on this thing like it's a NASCAR. All right. So I really want the business community to step up and get behind this here in terms of encouraging students to look at career tech education and the trades as a complete viable career alternative.
Absolutely. Now, how else are you supporting this? You have your staff. Will you have new staff? How will you support this travel around the area, this project?
So we have just hired a new employee. He hasn't started yet, so I won't give his name on the air here. By the time this goes live on your podcast, of course, the person will be with us. But he's a person who actually has trained drivers also. So this person is going to go around, as I said, and work with the local career tech centers. There are 27 career tech centers in Western PA.
Is that right?
Yeah. What happens is that most school districts themselves can't, afford, if you will, to have career tech education on site. And so in Pennsylvania, there's, as I said, these regional career tech centers where the schools can send their students. So if you're in, and I'm probably going to butcher this, by the way, I just don't know, but if you're in Meadville, maybe Meadville doesn't have a career tech education at the high school. So they'll send them to a regional career tech center. The students can all go to a place there. And so any smaller district obviously has to send the bus the students there. But what our Is It Here mobile home does, essentially we bring career tech education to the schools to introduce the students to the opportunity. So it's fitted out with a complete working kitchen. And the students, as I said, if they want to learn culinary arts, we hope that we're going to bring in somebody from a restaurant association or even a top chef from the area to come in and demonstrate with the students essentially what culinary arts is all about. And there's a television set, the camera, so people can actually stand outside the RV and watch the students preparing the food. We can set up, if it's somebody's interested in healthcare, we can work with a local healthcare organization and teach students the basics of how to work a blood pressure cuff and think career options in the healthcare industry. If somebody's interested in auto tech, we might bring in somebody from a local auto dealership to bring a car there, and the students can lift the hood up and see what goes on underneath there and learn about careers in auto industry. As I said, it's open to all sorts of opportunities for the local business community to help spur interest of students into the trades for career.
Now, how this is set up, there's a syllabus, but this is all approved material, right?
So I was going to say, so we have part of what we're doing is we're introducing the first in the nation syllabus for a course called Career Readiness. And that's really, as I said, while we really want students to look at career tech education as an opportunity for education, one of the things we're really trying to push with the Is It Here mobile home is our new syllabus. And that syllabus essentially takes the Association for Career Tech Education has 12 standards, if you will, of what students should learn for career readiness. And we've taken and matched those standards up with competencies, the first in the nation that has done this here, and that also integrates the community. So again, part of what we're looking at is work-based learning opportunities for students to be able to get credit for on-the-job learning. So if a student is interested in culinary arts, to be able to go into a kitchen, a commercial kitchen, and learn about how something happens in a commercial kitchen. If students interested in auto tech, to be able to go to an auto dealer and learn firsthand what goes into auto tech. And so that's really, as I said, the secret sauce of what we're trying to do here is introduce students to the trades, introduce our syllabus called Workforce Innovation Now, or WIN, as a viable career readiness course. Every student, by the way, who takes a career tech course has to take a class in career readiness. Right now, the alternatives essentially are people put PowerPoint slides out. It's almost as bad as the civics education we were talking about earlier. So people have PowerPoint slides about career readiness saying, here's stuff you need to know. You need to know about how to write a resume. Well, how are you going to learn how to write a resume? Wouldn't it be better if somebody from that industry sat down with a student and help the student write a resume? And wouldn't it be nice if that person sat down and helped the student with the resume and then did a mock interview with the student? So as I said, we're really trying to integrate the community with regards to our syllabus.
That's fantastic. So all this is organized and written down. You're not just shooting from the hip here with programs. These are specifically designed outreach program.
Yes, and it is the RV and the syllabus are actually based upon a pilot project that happened in the state of New Hampshire. ISIT.org's vice president of education formerly worked at the New Hampshire Department of Education, and so he as I said, he piloted the first RV mobile classroom, got that off the ground. Then the pandemic hit, so as I said, it didn't go anywhere from there. And then of course we scooped him up so that he would come work with us. And this was such a great idea. We decided we're going to implement this for Western Pennsylvania.
So let's back up a second. For all the productions and the excellent work Free to Choose, the network itself has done over the years, this is almost it's the same, but it's different. This sounds like a more proactive outreach program than just doing productions.
You will not be surprised to learn that the syllabus in the course for career readiness includes a healthy dose of our videos.
Well, that's nothing wrong, because what you're doing is recapitalizing on the thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that you spent to do that production. It's not inexpensive to do these things, let alone try and do it again today.
Oh, exactly. As I said, so we start, and again, as I said, I want to get back to the syllabus in terms of what this course is. We start with financial literacy. So we have actually the #1 video on YouTube for financial literacy in the United States. So almost 800,000 views on our video called Financial Literacy. So that's where it starts. And then we have a video called Where Did My Money Go? The sticker shock that students get when they get their first paycheck and they're like, who's FICA? What is that? What and in the shock where they learn that hey, doesn't the government pay for all this stuff? Well, how do you think the government gets its money, kid? Right?
Yeah.
And that's, as I said, so every for just about every it's a 9-week course on career readiness, and just about every week features 2 videos that we've produced. As I said, it's a really, really, really nice way to get our video content out there, repurposed, if you will, into the classroom space.
Have you had any luck with some national sponsors? I'm guessing there's some folks who would just love to sponsor an RV just for the sake of having that kind of communication with the community, let alone have the value-added educational component added to it.
And as we are, we're just rolling this out in September. So we certainly obviously hope that it's going to garner national attention. But it remains to be seen. We currently, as I said, we're still looking for sponsorship, and we hope the local Western Pennsylvania communities will step up to this one here. And
you know what happens when people see a good idea. You don't have to ask too loudly around Northwest Pennsylvania. People are incredibly generous. How long have you been working on developing this?
It's been about a 2-year process, and it started, and not on a whim, but we entered a grant competition. And we won first prize for $75,000 in terms of how to reach educational outreach for the student population that's not well served, if you will. And so it was wonderful. We won the $75,000 grant, and I says, "Oh shoot, you can't buy an RV for $75,000."
No, can't buy much in the way of education for $75,000.
So we went out. We got another grant for $100,000, which helped us purchase the RV. And as I said, we were willing to put some money into it from our end in terms of hiring somebody. But this really is this Is It Here RV is a community vehicle. There's no cost to any school to bring the RV to their school. We really are going to try to work with the career tech centers. We're really trying to work with the business community. Anybody who wants the RV in front of their place, we'll go there, we'll park it there, and we'll do a demonstration. Is
there a website or a method to communicate with you?
You can go, it's going to say email. You can do ask, ASK, at izzit.org, IZZIT.org. So anybody who's interested in having the Is It Here mobile classroom show up on site can just email to that address. People can learn more about Is It, obviously, by going to izzit.org. And I would give you a telephone number, but of course it's not rolling off my tongue here. So
that's okay. You're still organizing everything as of the date of this recording. But by the time it airs, I'm sure if people go to the website, they'll garner the information that they need. And minimally to talk to you. I'm guessing that there are going to be other folks who are involved in education. Their curiosity will be piqued. I'm guessing you're going to get some calls.
Well, as soon as the RV hits the road, I'm pretty sure people are going to ask, what is this thing and what does it do and how can I get it at my school?
Well, this is not going to be a grayscale vehicle. I saw a preview of it. This is going to be, it's going to attract attention. You think?
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's designed to do that.
We have our bright yellow izzit.org logo on the thing, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be seen. So, and as I said, we don't want to just park this thing in a garage. We want this thing out and about in the community.
Excellent. Let's back up a bit for folks who may not be as educated, so to speak, as to the Free to Choose network. You're the president and the chief executive officer. How many folks work with you at your organization?
We have about 20. I like to say I probably feed about 40 because when we do the film production, those are actually outsourced. I have film production companies that I work with. Sometimes it's as small as literally a husband and wife team that did the entire 3-hour series on the U.S. Constitution. Other times it's a bigger organization in terms of what we do for film production. But as I said, we outsource the film production side. We've got about 20 employees on staff.
Over the years, you've produced other programs. I know Bob Chittister has done many, many things in the community. Anything new that you're working on, or is it going to be the big deal of the day?
Well, I'm trying to push a lot more resources toward it because I do believe that the classroom side in terms of education is something that we just can't ignore. And I think the pandemic showed the power of using video in terms of education. Not so much, doing Zoom classes, if you will, but, having a student watch a video and then having that video prompt discussion, I think is going to be important. But we do have 2 new projects in the hopper for public television. Mm-hmm. The first is a continuation with Judge Ginsburg. So Judge Douglas Ginsburg is doing a 1-hour show on the Declaration of Independence.
To help folks get a better overview of your organization, you have, of course, Free to Choose Media. That's how you produce the programs, right?
Correct. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Over 500 films. Boy, we're really going back because they were on film at one time, weren't they?
Yeah, by far, yeah.
So you have over 500 hours of documentary films supporting a channel. Of course, the next big thing is it, izzit.org. And that basically is the organization, plus all the 20-plus employees and certain folks involved in different projects. And of course, you have your admin and other structures to keep things going. Free to Choose, the network, had Milton Friedman as part of it. Could you talk about that? That was a big deal in 1980. It's probably very good to watch today. It was a 10-part television series called Free to Choose.
It is still one of the most popular things we have, Tom. And it's amazing to me. We actually created something called Free to Choose in 2 minutes or under 2 minutes. And we thought, we hear so much about the younger generation not having a long attention span. And we thought, what if we made 2-minute videos of this? Well, they're available on the site. They're good 2-minute introductory videos. What we found is a student or a person might watch one of those videos and then immediately go to the 10-hour series. So people will binge watch Milton Friedman from 1980 because everything that he said then, I shouldn't say everything, nearly everything he said then is still relevant today in terms of the discussion.
It seems to be the way to watch TV of late, at least through my group of friends, 12, 15 hours in front of a screen. But the product, the program has to be interesting enough to get someone to sit there. And obviously, over the years, this has well proved its value.
We're still talking about inflation today. We're still talking about school choice today. We're still talking about welfare today. All the things that Milton Friedman was discussing in terms of policy prescriptions and saying, in Milton's viewpoint, was pretty simple. You know what? The markets are not perfect, but the markets will tend to get you a better solution than if you have a government solution. If you have a government solution, it's going to be top down, one size fits all, and we all know that's not the right solution.
Right. We're talking with Robert Chatfield, who serves as the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Free to Choose Network, FTCN, I guess you call it, global media. And you succeeded Bob Chittister, founder and chairman of the board. He stepped down. Unfortunately, he passed away. He was also a founding father of WQLN Public Media. And the programs going way back to the 80s are still around, are still valuable. As you look forward, 2022 and beyond, obviously this new program is something that you're intensely involved with. It's a good program. That is the Is It Here program, the Class A motorhome, traveling the country, traveling Northwest Pennsylvania. Beyond that, any crystal ball views as to where the organization is going or may be going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Sure. We're still going to do public television programming. We think that's an important area. We think we need to be there in terms of the public affairs side, bringing up ideas and questions that aren't being asked. In addition to that project on the Declaration of Independence I talked to you about, we are doing a 3-hour series on free speech. And I that's an issue where, again, as I said, you neither the left nor the right can own that issue politically. Free speech is as fundamental to everybody as breathing. If you try to squelch free speech, you're essentially saying that you can't be human. Because that's really the only thing that separates humans from the other creatures in the mammalian kingdom, if you will. There's, as I said, we think that's an issue. We have Nadine Strawson, former president of the ACLU, is going to host that project for us. And that's more than just we're not just going to do television programs and say, that's really nice. What we're really trying to do is add a community engagement component to these things and really get communities talking about the issues. So when we do the Declaration of Independence project, we're going to do a lot with immigrant communities, for example. Why is this document still important, and how does that motivate immigrants to come to the United States? When we do the Free Speech Project, we're not just going to go to college campuses. We're going to try to work with the American Association of School Librarians, for example, to talk about this stuff in the schools. We'll work with the American Library Association to do something with Banned Books Week. And we will do stuff on campuses, obviously, but we really want to get communities talking about issues.
Robert Chatfield, if someone just wanted to chat with you or get involved with the project or maybe something more, what's the best way that they can find you?
They can go to freetocoosenetwork.org. And there's, of course, a Donate Now button. That's an easy thing to go to right there. But even if they don't want to donate right on the spot, which, of course, I would encourage them to do, there's a treasure trove of information there about our organization and how to get in touch with us.
And everyone's resume and photos, and there's a ton of information, including some things to listen to and participate with. And just pushing the listen to button, they're going to be astounded by the icons of all of these programs and the names and the places. Certainly you're an international organization as you advertise yourself to be, and not to forget the original Free to Choose series, which WQLN and Bob Chittister were deeply involved with. I want to thank you personally for taking time out of your incredibly busy day for visiting with me here today and talking with our audience. And thank you very, very much.
And when we get the Class A motorhome to Erie, Tom, we certainly hope you're going to do a photo opportunity to help promote that also.
We're going to have you park it around the circle. You know where that is. It should fit well with all the other educational things that WQLN does, and I'm sure they're going to be excited to get all the details. What a great idea, and congratulations on your new project.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is Tom Pysz. We're celebrating our 19th year here on WQLN FM 91.3 WQLN NPR. We are also on NPR One and about a half dozen other podcast venues, celebrating a good set of years, some outstanding guests, and today will not be outdone. We have David Callahan, president of the Marcellus Shale Coalition. And David, you were recently in Erie here at a fine organization, the Manufacturers and Business Association. I guess you had a little breakfast meeting in order to talk about Marcellus Shale. Am I right?
That's right, Tom. And first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm going to enjoy the conversation. And that's right. I was in the region not that long ago to share some thoughts and insights with the business community on the development of the Marcellus Shale resources, their responsible development, their responsible transportation and utilization as well. Share a little bit about, how the industry is proceeding and the many benefits that are accruing, not just to the Commonwealth, but worldwide, thanks to this great energy resource that we have here in Pennsylvania.
Just so people understand, the Marcellus Shale Coalition is a trade association. Can you explain how that mechanism works?
Sure, that's correct. We're a trade association. We represent all segments of the natural gas industry in Pennsylvania. We have folks that produce natural gas, companies that gather and transport natural gas, whether it's gathering and delivering it to other bigger pipelines or to your home as well. And we have some downstream companies as well who deliver it to your home, also who use natural gas to generate power. And along with all those, we have any number of companies that provide goods and services to the industry. In all, we have about 130 members. We're a Pennsylvania trade association, but we have members from all over the country who are operating here in Pennsylvania.
You've been around since 2008?
That's correct, sir. Since 2008, since the very beginning of what we call the shale revolution.
Okay, that's important because you have a very good overview of how this works. Now let's educate some folks, as we tend to do on public broadcasting. What is Marcellus Shale? How does this work?
Well, first of all, it's a geologic formation, and there's actually two formations, the Marcellus and the Utica, that underlie roughly 2/3 of Pennsylvania, as well as portions of West Virginia and Ohio, and a little bit into New York State as well. That geologic formation was originally the deposition of organic material anywhere from 390 to 450 million years ago. And that material, thanks to geologic time, pressure, temperature, transformed into natural gas, other hydrocarbons like oil, and natural gas liquids like propane, ethane, butane, isobutane. And just recently, within the past dozen years or more, the technology has evolved to tap into that geologic formation and efficiently and responsibly develop that natural gas. There are tremendous supplies available to us. That formation or those formations can support generation upon generation of supply here in Pennsylvania and also to our neighbors as well.
I was looking at the maps, and to me, I'm an amateur, the Utica Shale, being much deeper, is a much larger deposit, so to speak, covering a much larger area than the Marcellus. But all we hear about from the consumer side is this Marcellus, how to get to it, what's the technology involved. So maybe you can explain, how do you extract the natural gas? And now I'm understanding there's oil underneath as well. So educate this amateur here as to exactly how this works.
With regard to the oil question, there are certain portions of the shale play or the fairway where the gas, where that organic material is immature. It hasn't cooked completely, to use layman's terms.
Yep.
And there you get more of the oily deposits. And so that's further west, mainly into Ohio and like central Ohio and eastern Ohio. And then you get into some of the more liquids. And again, like products like ethane, propane, butane, isobutane, natural gasolines like pentane. And then as you travel further east, the gas or that formation is cooked more. And so you have natural gas. And the technology involved is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Because, if you could think traditionally, oil and natural gas were developed utilizing vertical wells. It's like putting a straw into a drink. And there would be multiple straws into a formation to extract from this formation that runs horizontally. Now, well below ground, anywhere from a mile, mile and a half, 2 miles below ground. Now, thanks to the development of great technology, the shale industry, the unconventional industry, is able to drill down vertically, slowly curve that pipe, and then travel horizontally along, if you could imagine, like the seam, if we could call it that, of shale deposit, to then expose more of that deposit and extract more natural gas and do it efficiently as well. And so you have operations where you will have a well pad with multiple wells on them that can travel outward, several miles in any direction. And it's a bit of an technological breakthrough, if I could coin a phrase, as well, because we're able to put multiple wells traveling out into different areas, again, a mile or more or 2 or more in different directions on one well pad. And what does that mean? That means fewer access roads, fewer wells, fewer straws in the drink, meaning fewer pads involved where you actually have the drilling equipment and then later the production equipment, fewer pipelines connecting as well. It's a time saver. It's an ecological saver as well.
Where I first heard about this, even before I had heard about Marcellus, is that apparently the Drake Well era, this is our region, Oil City and areas north, they were drilling down, they were getting the oil out, but the natural gas was escaping, in fact, even being burned off. And unfortunately, that was a major loss of resource because they wanted the oil. So now there's all this oil underneath, and they were actually creating wells that would go down and drill horizontally for the oil recently. And I say recently, in the last 10, 15 years. And then I hear about this. This is a little different because those Drake Well oil reserves were pretty close to the surface. This is not the case with Marcellus, as I understand it. You have to go down 5,000, 8,000, maybe even as far as 16,000 feet to get to the Marcellus and then subsequently the Utica Shale. Am I framing that correctly?
You are, Tom. And again, not only do you have to go down that far, mile and a half, 2 miles, but then you also travel out horizontally to then tap that resource. And again, that can go out several miles. I mean, a couple of years ago, I heard of a company who had we call them laterals, who had a lateral that traveled out upwards of 4 miles. It's an absolute technological breakthrough to think that someone sitting in a small, more or less cab, almost like a cab to a tractor trailer with a joystick, can hit that target and keep it on that target, bend the pipe ever so gently and slowly, and reach that target area.
We're talking with David Callahan, president of the Marcellus Shale Coalition, involved with this project since 2008. The organization itself, describe that structurally. You have a staff, a board, and members. So can we talk about all those people involved in this?
Sure. And again, we represent all facets of the industry. We have a board comprised of the companies that drill for natural gas, transport natural gas, whether it's through certain pipelines that are known as gathering pipelines that gather the gas from the wellheads, or transport it through interstate pipelines, the bigger pipelines that can travel into other states, or even deliver it to your home. That's kind of the basic structure of the organization. And again, we have all sorts of companies that provide goods and services to the organization. We do all this with a staff of 9 people. Wow. And we do a lot of work for a small organization. We're involved in advancing and defending the industry, whether it's in the public affairs arena, whether it's in the halls of the Capitol, regulatory agencies, and back home. Dealing with people back home as well. But most of all, what we do is we provide a forum for companies who are competitors in the marketplace to work collaboratively and lawfully to solve problems out in the field, get better at what they do every single day to achieve our goals of developing this resource responsibly. Because we talk about many of the economic gains that are supported by this industry and many of the economic gains that are achieved from this industry. Those economic gains are equaled by the environmental gains as well. We're proud that we're a part of a good story going on in this country that's making the air cleaner, that's reducing CO2 emissions as well.
Let's take a snapshot of how large this industry is, say just in spitting distance, so to speak, of Northwest Pennsylvania. 5,000 wells, 10,000 wells? How many are there?
Certainly. Statewide, we have more than 10,600, we could say nearly 11,000 producing wells statewide. Now, again, talking about that conservation aspect, those wells are on 4,000 well pads. So we have multiple wells on a well pad, reducing the surface footprint of the industry. Roughly 36 of 67 counties have at least one producing well. And so it's vast. And, to put it into more detail, last year, Pennsylvania produced 7.6 trillion cubic feet of gas. Now, there's no real, I don't think everybody knows what a gallon of gasoline, a gallon of milk looks like. So we deal with cubic feet. An easy way to remember that is that roughly that 7.6 trillion cubic feet can support or supply roughly 100 million homes for a year. Pennsylvania is the second largest producer in the U.S. But when you combine us with our neighbors in Ohio and West Virginia, because we share the same formations, we're the number 1 producing region in the United States. And if we were a country, we'd be the number 3 producing country in the entire world.
And that leads people to maybe understand a degree of, well, let's talk about it. Get away from oil dependency, your natural gas producers, or is there oil involved in this?
It's primarily natural gas in Pennsylvania. And again, what I referred to as those natural gas liquids. Those liquids, again, ethane, propane, butane, isobutane, pentanes, those are chemical building blocks for various industries. And those are the chemical building blocks for things that we use every day in our lives. And there's a great, infrastructure being developed since we started tapping these tremendous reserves. That is in part supplemented by the Shell petrochemical facility in Beaver County, just down the road. Mm-hmm. So we see an opportunity there with the development of these great natural gas liquids and utilizing those rather than sending the product elsewhere or overseas to then make products that we use every day in our lives. Why not make those products here? And we're seeing that slowly evolve, and those opportunities are forthcoming.
I caught an article on that Beaver Valley facility. Is that built already? Is that done?
It is built. They've completed the construction phase, mm-hmm. and they're slowly getting into the operational phase. It's one of the biggest facilities of its kind in all of North America.
My understanding it's billions of dollars that went into that. Maybe I'm exaggerating.
You're not. Upwards of $6 billion or more. And the facility itself will generate, according to independent academic research, roughly $3.7 billion in economic activity every year. Tens of millions of dollars in tax revenue, both locally and at the statewide level as well.
Help an amateur out here. How do you transport? Is it pipeline? Is it truck? Is it like the old days, huge pipelines? I'm thinking of Rockefeller and his outreach from Cleveland. How does this work? Is it pipeline?
Natural gas is primarily transported via pipeline.
Same as the current system.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And the liquids that I've referred to any number of times, those can be transported via pipeline. It can be transported, certain ones, via truck and or rail as well. But for natural gas itself, it's primarily via pipeline. There are companies who will liquefy it or compress it and ship it in tankers for, temporary use in certain installations, but it's primarily pipeline. And if you would, folks would look at a map of where the pipelines are, mm-hmm. Your section of Pennsylvania, Northwest Pennsylvania, has a tremendous pipeline infrastructure mm-hmm. that has grown with the industry. Grown with the industry from production, grown with the industry to support storage of natural gas. We store it in reservoirs to have it ready and available for the wintertime. But more pipeline capacity is desperately needed to support the continued development of the Marcellus and Utica shales.
Real blunt question. Where does the pipe come from?
A lot of it comes domestically from domestic producers. Any number of folks in the industry, companies in the industry, actually disclose that information under state law mm-hmm. to the Public Utility Commission, and they come out with a report every year showing the amount of domestic pipeline that's used.
Help us understand how government gets involved with Marcellus Shale.
Obviously, government sets the rules of the road, so to speak, for how this resource is developed. There are any number of regulations on the books and laws on the books. And, we're proud of the fact that Pennsylvania has among the most stringent, if not the most stringent set of rules on the books for the development of this resource. And we have a very strong track record in adhering to those rules and regulations as well. The government is involved in, setting the distance that you have to operate in terms of, how far you can be away from a building. The government is in charge of, directing what you do downhole, the layers of protection that you have between the pipe and aquifers, all sorts of areas that are regulated by the government. The government is very, very mindful, believe it or not, of runoff of water. If you're going to clear an area for a well pad, mm-hmm. the government is very mindful, and they have a very strong permit involved in making sure that erosion and sedimentation is controlled effectively. Every aspect of the industry is regulated.
David Callahan, president of the Marcellus Shale Coalition. How does government tax you?
Well, government taxes us like any other businesses. Our companies, whether they're producers, pipelines, or others, they pay all their corporate taxes. In addition, the state imposes a special tax on natural gas production called the impact fee. The impact fee is basically our version of a severance tax. It was imposed originally at the very early days of the shale play. And you don't find many taxpayers who are proud of what they're paying in taxes, but we are. The impact fee has generated roughly $2.3 billion since it was imposed in 2012. A lot of this, the impact fee, goes directly to local governments where oil and gas, where natural gas development is taking place. That funds things like roads and bridges, stormwater and sewer, emergency preparedness, all sorts of good local government services. Just last year alone, the impact fee generated $234 million.
It's amazing. How is government treating you? Do the candidates or the representatives that protect our rights, how do they treat you?
We'd like to work proactively with all sorts of stakeholders, whether it's locally, statewide, or at the national level. We provide fact-based information to government officials to help them understand the impacts of what they're deciding and how it impacts the industry. We have a need, though, especially at the federal level, to embrace natural gas and provide for the development of more infrastructure so that, again, we could serve the markets at home and also internationally. We have allies in Europe who are about to go through a very trying winter as they wean themselves off of Russian natural gas, and we're trying to help them in this country by supplying them with exports of natural gas. We need coordinated policies here, not just in Pennsylvania, but at the national level, to allow that infrastructure to be developed efficiently to help our allies make it through the winter, and not just through this winter, but to supply them for years to come. Because unfortunately, the actions of Russia in invading Ukraine will have long-standing impacts on energy security and national security that will go on for a long time beyond when, the last bullet is fired.
I was looking at the number of organizations that are members. This is not a small group of people. These are not small companies. There's everything from consultants to drillers to legal firms. Give us a brief overview of how your membership affects your outcomes. That's sort of a general question.
Sure. Well, I can talk about it from the standpoint of jobs in the industry. And we like to say that, we employ, the broader industry employs people with qualifications ranging from a GED to a PhD. We have people doing work out in the field through the construction trades and others. We have scientists and specialists of all kinds making the industry more efficient, making great gains on the environmental front as well. We employ and work with engineering firms and other consultants who have generations of history in Pennsylvania, designing roads, designing bridges, designing development of all kinds. This industry is widespread. There was a study by PricewaterhouseCoopers, I think it was just prior to the pandemic, I believe it was in 2019, and they estimated, looking at oil and gas overall, so the oil industry, natural gas industry, conventional, unconventional, you name it, they estimated roughly 100,000 people employed in the industry directly, and upwards of 400,000 employed directly, indirectly, and induced employment as well.
If I could point out something from an amateur's position, there are huge companies on your list. I don't want to read these off, but the names are as large as you can imagine in the oil industry, and I think you know what companies I'm talking about. Did you solicit those companies, or did they come to the front of the line to help you out?
Well, at the very beginning of the organization, companies themselves got together and said, we need to work together. We need to work together to advance and defend the industry. They formed the organization, and we've just taken off from there. And there's a little bit of both. We solicit folks to join. We show them the benefits of working with their peers, and sometimes people come directly to us. It could be folks, providing goods and services out in the field. It could be producers and pipeline companies who want to work collaboratively with their peers. But there are companies large and small associated with this industry, and a lot of homegrown companies. We've seen tremendous innovation out in the field where small companies have popped up providing a little niche service to the industry, and it's grown and grown and grown. There's tremendous opportunity, tremendous innovations being done every day in this industry, and Pennsylvanians are largely behind it.
Where do you see all this going, say, in 5 years, or even further out than that?
Well, I think there are tremendous obligations overseas that'll drive production. There are tremendous opportunities here to continue to supply markets with natural gas, as well as great innovations as well. We have several companies who are investigating and investing significant dollars into researching the development of hydrogen from natural gas, the utilization of carbon capture and storage, sometimes associated with the development of hydrogen, sometimes associated with just the combustion of natural gas itself. Natural gas has a strong role to play in a decarbonized economy. It has a strong role to play in a sustainable economy as well.
This is an amazing topic. As you look at economic impact, is there a dollar amount, millions, billions?
We haven't done the research in recent years, but it's certainly in the billions of dollars. Whether it's royalty owners, the folks who actually, the property owners who actually own the oil and gas rights below their property, they've benefited tremendously. Whether it's, the small company that supplies boots to workers, whether it's a restaurant that drives food trucks out to the well sites, or any number of economic, I'll say spillover effects are out there. It's widespread and it's deep.
As people need or want more information, maybe it's a large company, maybe it's just a citizen, what's the best way they can get a hold of you or get a hold of that information?
Sure. We pride ourselves in sharing good, solid, fact-based information, and we have a website that's chock full of that information, www.marcelluscoalition.org. You can find more information on our social media channels, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook. Of course, we're on LinkedIn as well. It's our job, and I consider it my personal and professional responsibility to share good, solid, fact-based information on what we do, how we do it, the benefits of what we do. And folks can find everything from fact sheets, videos, commentary on the news of the day, all on our website and our social media channels.
I looked at your website. It was most enjoyable. It was like
I appreciate that.
It was like taking a college course, though. And I don't say that critically. I say that because there were certain questions that I had in my mind from dealing with other guests on the program that were heavily involved in natural gas and that kind of development, particularly in the Oil City region, Western New York. And I'm sure you know which companies I'm talking about, that there was a ton of information. And the first thing that came to my mind is before you challenge something, try and read and understand as much about it as you can. There's good and bad things about everything in this world, but without an education or a firm understanding, and this is my philosophy, of what it really is, I think it'd be well worth someone's time to not only look at the website, but go down through that membership list. And I think they'll be astounded to see who is involved to a great degree, how much money they have in this, how much interest they have in this relative to their customers. And then, of course, there's the other side, too, that needs a lot of exploration and education. So I want to thank you, David Callahan, president of the Marcellus Shale Coalition, for spending a half hour with me. It was totally informative and enjoyable.
Tom, it's been wonderful, and I'd love to come back sometime.
That would be great.